Oh, so now you are live. Oh, okay. Hi, folks. Hi, everyone. Michel Marleau here, coming live in the MSP Talk studios in Mascouche, Quebec. And as announced on Friday, if anybody picked it up, or if you're joining in just because you happen to see the pop up, I have a special guest here. I have Datto's own Rob Rae joining in. All right, Rob is live from Connecticut, but which part? Where do you live?
So I live just outside Norwalk, Connecticut. Norwalk is it's a town on the southern end of Connecticut on the ocean, not far from the Atlantic Ocean, probably about 40 minutes out of New York City.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and you've been there. You've been living there for what, like 5, 6 years or something?
No, close to. I'm coming up to 7, so about 6.5 years, and almost got deported back to Canada a couple of times, but now was able to get a green card. I'm still a Canadian citizen, but was able to get a green card so that I can continue to make U.S. dollars and pay U.S. taxes, which is every Canadian's dream, right?
Yeah. Like you said on Friday, you're collecting U.S. dollars, which is a nice collection to have, which is nice.
Very much so.
Listen, we'll get back to that immediately, but just first off, it's your first time on MSP Talk. Listen, I put on this thing. I started thinking about this thing maybe back in January. I applied for my LinkedIn Live account, which I finally got, which I was basically Christmas came early. And I wanted something to talk about MSPs, but strictly for MSP owners, not tech talk, not so much about, but basic things that keep up, that owners are mindful of, right?
Yep.
About perenity of their business, the state of the MSP for sure, but about scalability. And actually, that is the overall theme of what I do try to bring to the table, scalability. And every once in a while, I actually get a guest like yourself that I was able to get a hold of you and for you to contribute some time with a major player in the industry, right? And that's why I'm really excited, really happy to have Rob as a guest, and a bona fide guest as a Canadian. Also, so because this thing here, MSP Talk, if you're an American, hey, chime in. I'm all great. Write your comments and everything. That's awesome. Where it's basically we try to put a Canadian spin on things, Canadian flavor of it. We didn't break out all the maple syrup and everything, but hey, we'll do what we can. So basically, yeah, Rob was telling me you're in Connecticut for a little while now, and basically, tell me, where'd you grow up? Which part of the country, Canada, did you grow up in?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Bancroft, Ontario, which is way north. My parents are English immigrants. Came to Canada, and the entire family post World War II, and fell in love with Northern Ontario, all the lakes and the bush and stuff like that. Thought it would be amazing to open a pub up there, and then realized, yeah. So I was born there, and quickly realized that up in the bush, there's only a few reasons people go to a pub, and it's generally just to get drunk. So, it was breaking up bar fights every night. So they moved down to Mississauga when I was young. So I was basically raised in Mississauga, which is, if you're aware of it, just west of Toronto. It's where the airport is. The Toronto airport is.
It's the center of the universe, right? It's the center of the universe of Canada,
Toronto.
right?
Yeah, okay, fair. I thought you were going to tell me Toronto was. I'm like, that doesn't sound like you. Anyway, so just grew up on the west end of Toronto, and just moved all around north of Toronto. Lived in Toronto for a little bit, but basically lived all around there for about 40 years before moving down here to the States. So always in the Canadian channel. I got my first big break with Compact Computers, managing inside sales for the channel, which was SMB back then, resellers selling.
Yeah, was that your first job in sales, or first meaningful job in sales?
No, I spent the first 12 years of my career working for the Bank of Montreal, doing lots of different things. When I left, I was into lending, but basically did a ton of different sales. I actually got my first taste of IT. So I was working in the branch system, back in the day when we had tellers, and the ATMs came out, and then all of a sudden they're like, it was me and a bunch of old fuddy-duddy ladies that were these bank tellers. So they're like, hey, take the young guy who's willing to try using a computer, which they could find an ATM as a computer. And basically, one of my first jobs was to stand out there and teach people how to use the bank machine rather than go in and use the old ladies to process their deposits and transfers and stuff. So then they started telephone banking, and then they're like, well, take the young guy who understands the ATMs and let's go put him on telephone banking. Because again, nobody wanted to do banking over the phone. And then that led into internet banking. I remember we had to send out like this 8 hard disks out to people so they could load up software on their computers to be able to look at
the diskettes, the diskettes, the kit, the stack of diskettes.
Yeah, and all you could do was look at your balance. Like you couldn't do anything else online. This is back in, oh God, it's not that bad, 95. Anyway, so it just kind of evolved from there. But when it came to technology, I found Compact Computers. A guy that worked for me had moved over from the bank over there. They were looking for a sales manager, somebody that can come in with sales experience. And I walked into Compact and knew nothing about technology, knew a ton about sales, a ton about how to manage people. And that's when I kind of first got my first taste of technology. So that's what kind of came about it a different way than most people do.
Yeah. So you mentioned Compact and something like that. Listen, just before we get into a couple of questions I have here, you came to visit us at the MicroAge conference that we put on last. Okay, that was April 2019, and we had to cancel this year for some reason. I don't know why. I just got the memo. We couldn't have a conference in May. So anyway, so we'll do it again next year. But basically, you came in, and I remember you told us basically, you told me that like you always knew of MicroAge in Canada because you were Compact, because it was one of our major accounts, right? So that what's your takeaway? Like what was your first steps like with MicroAge?
Yeah, so we obviously, with being Compact Computers, we would identify and always have an active list of who our top partners were. And for me, because I managed, I was managing the inside sales group. So not the field guys. There were the guys that would go out into the field and go and visit partners. Because remember, Compact back then was 100% channel, right? So they would visit some of the larger or MSPs there back then, again, resellers that would deal with like large accounts, like the Toronto Stock Exchange kind of thing, McDonald's, areas like that. Meanwhile, there's a ton of smaller resellers. We would always have our larger or our list of our top ones. MicroAge was always on that list. So this is where we would engage and develop that relationship, because it was part of my job as managing this team, was to make sure that we had an ongoing relationship with organizations like yours to make sure that you were consuming Compact equipment and super happy with Compact equipment. So, that was kind of my first, actually not just my first experience with MicroAge, but my first experience just in IT as a whole was dealing with that. And that's when I fell in love with the channel. Obviously that evolved similar to MicroAge, how you've evolved your business from one-time hardware, double-digit margins to services and the managed services market. Same thing. I left Compact, which became HP, and left to go into the software side of it, but MSP driven software, which was a small little Canadian company called Level Platforms, which did remote monitoring.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, you run the gamut now. You're let's just say let's go into talk about. Oh, by the way, Sandy McGrath just chimed in and said, "Afternoon, gentlemen." Hi, Sandy.
I got a call with Sandy in a couple hours. This guy's everywhere. So
I know. He's doing a good job there in Calgary. Actually, what is it? Well, it's 10 a.m., so he's okay. Like he's already had a couple of cups of coffee. So anyway, so listen, I'll just turn in. Like basically, first thing is I'd like to chime in on how Datto, as a sales organization, right, has had to adjust to the last couple of months, where I don't want to go deep into COVID-19 and stuff like that. But basically the takeaway is that you guys were on a fast track and rising very, very quickly, right? And I always thought that the way you did it was as a people company. It's a lot about FaceTime with your customers. It's about engaging a lot with the customers, right? A lot of the stuff that you do is based around that. And, but of course, it must have been such an adjustment on your part. And I want to tell you, tell me more about the recent journey or anything like that. Like like things have shaken up, right? Yeah, you guys had to adjust major
Yeah,
ways.
absolutely. I think there's so first of all, I mean, nobody predicted this, so it would have been difficult to anticipate and plan for this. And I think that all of us, it's funny. I've made the joke a couple of times, but if I told you that everybody worldwide was going to be sent home from work and we were all going to stay in our homes for 3 months, everybody would have gone, "You're crazy." There's absolutely no way that anybody could orchestrate that. Forget about that actually happening. And of course, that's the situation that we're in. For us as a business, you want to plan for the worst. You always want to plan for the worst. So there's a couple things that went really well for us as a business. First of all, we're in, and one of our core products is backup disaster recovery. So you have to be ready for any disaster, right? For us, typically, when you talk about disasters, other outside of say like a ransomware attack or some type of data security attack, things like if you look at natural disasters like fires and floods and tornadoes and hurricanes, or say up in your region where you get ice storms and really bad hockey.
That hurts.
You have to be ready.
It's a bit too soon. Come on. Well, no, it's not too soon. It's been a while. Anyways,
you have to be ready for these things. So for us, we're already in the process of testing. What if our Connecticut office, which is where a lot of our sales techs were, what if we cannot go into the office for whatever reason? Our other big service center is Rochester, New York. What happens if our techs can't get into Rochester? So we had already been testing and started doing this back in November of 2019 of the office is closed, you must work from home. And then let's test it and see what happens without, depleting our service. So, we were doing that. So for us, actually, we were kind of ready for this, not in this way, but it worked out to our advantage where we are able to continue to provide good support for our partners, even though every single one of our support techs worldwide is sitting at home, so that was good. From a sales perspective, this is where, again, like you cannot anticipate what's going to happen. BCDR is our flagship product. Backup is our flagship product. That is, our bread and butter. And then we have a ton of other products that we sell, all focused around managed services. What's the first thing that happens when, massive recession, when we look at the .com bust, when we look at the 2008 recession, when we looked at these things, project work gets canceled. Large scale projects get stopped, right? And now all of a sudden you can't go physically to an end user office to implement physical hardware or these types of things. Plus now there's a mad scramble for everybody to go from home. So backup or implementing a backup solution probably was on the back of everybody's mind, not in the forefront. However, we do offer things like SaaS protection, Office 365 backup. That all of a sudden shot right up. Remote monitoring and management, RMM, that all of a sudden the demand shot up because now you're not just monitoring the devices that are at work, you're now monitoring devices that are sitting at home. So immediately the channel found so much more opportunity through this. So it's not so much that, we plateaued or started dropping. It's all of a sudden like other sales that we were not anticipating kind of kept floating the boat, which was great. The better news around this, though, is that it's starting to come back. We actually are starting to see those things, the physical environment starting to come back, and those sales starting to come back on top of the continued cloud-based technology and SaaS and RMM. So, I think that as much as this may have been one step back for the channel and the vendors that support this channel, I think it's going to be a big leap forward once we're through this, where all the technology that you guys sell and value, and all of a sudden end users will have a better grip on what it really does and how the channel really fits with it, to the point where I think we're going to see profitability go back up and surpass the original forecasts.
Oh, I agree. At the end of the day, it was like this short period where we had to become like work from home experts. Had to scramble to get our customers up to speed. Some MSPs weathered the storm quite well. Some others found themselves, okay, hold on a second, they're not as well covered. Maybe they don't have the same depth of services they can. But however, I feel all the technology's been there for such a long time. to have such so many businesses work from home and the backup and disaster recovery. But now it basically just brought everything to the forefront, and it was a shock. It was like a shock to our senses. We had to adjust quite quickly. Obviously, there is some sort of it is going to go back, but there's going to be so many opportunities available for MSPs right now. It's going to be, I think the next years are going to show that we're going to have so many takeaways from this experience. But however, it's all about, there's just so many opportunities. Now it's a question of, do MSPs have the horsepower to be able to capitalize? Because I'm pretty sure, like, you basically, if you look at your list of clients with Datto, you have some smaller MSPs, some larger ones, some bigger ones, and the cloud-based model and the way of delivering services is in line with the ability to be scalable, to be a small outfit, be more nimble, right? But there are certain limits to that, right? And to be able to capitalize on this in an age where basically MSPs were running at 100% right before this thing happened, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we need better services than before. Then it's going to be this. It's going to be a lot of opportunities out there. MSPs going to be bought and sold. Lots of opportunities for acquisitions, right? And but in terms of your products, I think you're in a very good place in terms of your offer to the channel and your positioning. We're going to talk about it a bit later in terms of the community aspect that you've built around it, right? And so there's so many opportunities out there. It's mind-boggling. We could take silver linings out of what just happened, and these are like a bunch of silver linings for our industry, right?
I got to be honest. Like in 2008, I was knee deep into this because I was at Level Platforms at the time, back then we were all trying to figure out how to become MSPs. We saw companies go out of business, MSPs go out of business. We saw end users stop paying their bills. This one, we're seeing a little bit of it, but it does not feel the same. Like, I'm not seeing the dramatic impact that it had back then. And I think that's where your silver lining is coming from. The whole idea that back then, technology was maybe not as valued, or maybe a secondary thought, or maybe we can do without these things. Whereas now it's like, it's essential service.
Well, right? It's paying your hydro bill. It's paying your phone bill at the end of the day. And also the fact is, maybe some MSPs were able to weather well is the fact that they're working on recurring revenue.
Massive difference. You're absolutely right.
That difference makes it. I mean, obviously, the ones, some companies that are still in the break and fix, we're waiting for that phone to ring. Of course, it rang for a month, right? Like, basically, everybody's trying to get the service and get their people up and running. And all of a sudden, maybe the phone stopped ringing, and now their offer has to be more about, okay, well, as things get back to normal and we get back to business as usual, making sure that I'm top of mind. My MSP. Mike Marleau MSP or MicroAge business, we're top of mind in our client's mind to make sure that they know that they're fully covered. They will be, they want that one throat to choke. And don't, as an MSP, if I ever give any advice to an MSP, I'm not a guru or like an MSP guru or anything like that, is don't just expand your sales portfolio. Don't leave them a reason to say to look elsewhere. You have to be able to be everything that they need in terms of IT, and it's very hard in the SMB space specifically.
It is very hard, but you know what? Again, silver lining out of this, I think we just proved that the recurring revenue model is the correct one, both from sustainability of the managed service providers, but also the engagement from the ultimate end user, right? 2008, as I mentioned, in 2008, we were teaching and progressing and trying to become MSPs. And that recession is probably what kicked everybody in the butt to say, we got to get this done. Because
there's got to be a new way. There's got to be a different way of running a business, right?
Well, back then, the one-time revenue was the big piece. We were still doing that transition from reseller to MSP. I see Dan Wensley's on there. He fought this battle with me back in 2008, which I learned all of this from him. So
okay, great shout out to Dan.
Perspective is 100% Dan's. I'm just stealing it from him. But
Yeah,
some
by the way, for those who don't know that Dan, he's got this thing going on. I don't know what company you might have heard about it out on the West Coast, right? So you chime in. They were a partner at that. They were at DattoCon.
Warranty Master. Yeah,
There you
no,
go.
beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But Dan, I worked for Dan over at Level Platforms back in the day. So anyway, so we saw this all of a sudden, one-time revenue is gone, and the only thing that was surviving was recurring. And I think when we look at the MSP market, the North American market, Canadians and Americans are well off ahead of everybody else in the world because we went through that more dramatically than I think anywhere else in the world. So immediately it's like we need to transform our businesses. We need to focus on recurring revenue. We got to keep our cost per month low. We got to get the end users continuing to pay for it. And think of it as part of the service rather than something I can cancel if things go sideways. So that's where right now I think that the North American market and the MSPs in there are better positioned to survive this and weather this. I think that the businesses that hadn't gone more MRR, less one-time revenue are going to have some problems. And I think that the rest of the world is going to look to North America and say, we got to do this because now the rest of the world is starting to experience exactly what we did in 2008.
Yeah, actually, you know what? It's actually pretty cool. Hey, just before we leave, Sandy chimed in earlier as we were talking about projects. Their projects took off. They've been doing more projects now, more than last year. Hey, it's all good.
That's very good to hear. I mean, if the projects are still coming through for you, I'm hoping
you're in a good position.
There's a lot of verticals that got damaged very badly, and if the project work is still coming through, phenomenal. But the MRR is definitely where the gold is for sure.
No, definitely. So, hey, you know what? Segue, like you just said, talking about Canadian MSPs versus Europe and everything. So we'll switch over to second period. The state of MSPs in Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about it a bit, of course. It's already we're already in the subject. Like you mentioned earlier, the adoption rate in the U.S. is a few years ahead in terms of with Canada also, I feel. But what you just said to me is basically that North America as a market, U.S. and Canada combined, are very well ahead of Europe. Would you say like same thing with Australia and something like that? I mean, what are your takeaways on that?
From if you look at pure dollars, meaning what percentage of your business is recurring revenue versus one-time revenue, it's definitely ahead of every other marketplace. Now, Australia has done a pretty good job. Their cloud adoption rates have been significantly faster than anybody in this market. So their MRR rates are actually growing. Asia is way behind everybody when it comes to this. The MSP services, the end users are still determining what technology they want and where. And over there, they don't call themselves MSPs, but what you would think of as an MSP basically has to offer every vendor. It's not a predetermined selection that the MSP has made. Europe is definitely moving forward, but again, I think going through this, weathering the storm, we're going to see less Canadian MSPs going out of business. Less Canadian MSPs, in desperate modes to find business, those kinds of things. And I think the other benefit of this is that the value that the end user has for the MSP and for the channel is significantly better. There's reports that are coming out, and we just did one, State of the Market report. It's a beautiful, very comprehensive report, most comprehensive we've done, and we actually are starting to break out the Canadian data from it, but we do this report every single year, and we interviewed 1,800 MSPs in January and February. But then we had to go back and interview them again in April because, I mean, everything changed. Like the number one issue that MSPs were having in January, February was not finding enough tech talent.
HR, exactly.
Now it's cash. So here's the beautiful part, though. When you talk about surveying and talking to end users, the end user perception of the channel has changed, and this is Canada and Canadian data that end users now view their managed service provider as the agility scores have gone up, the responsiveness scores have gone up, and the ability to provide a range of services. Those scores have gone up, which in my mind means that the value of what MSPs have done is being recognized by the end user community and therefore being more valued by the end user community. So that post-COVID, when we're having conversations about what if this happens again? What are we going to do if you decide not to open the office? What if COVID-21 turns around? Like whatever the next scenario is, the MSP is in a better position to be able to weather through this, be real consultative, and definitely be part of like when you need help, you go, to your lawyer. When you need, tax help, you go to your accountant. Now, IT is going to be an essential part of this. And I know you and I have had this conversation as well, because let's look up market as well. Because I think what happened is the mid-market companies and large market companies, and I understand that there's a few of those in Canada, but not a lot.
We get two.
Yeah.
We get two.
Yeah, but they didn't do as good of a job as what even the smaller businesses did. And that's because they didn't have access to an MSP or the channel. They had an in-house IT team that wasn't prepared for this, doesn't have the agility, responsiveness, and cross-functionalization that everybody else, that the channel does. So now all of a sudden, we're going to see more of these co-managed IT opportunities. And again, that means more water in our buckets than we had pre-COVID.
Yeah. No, most definitely. I mean, I put on a webinar a month and a half ago. Wow, that was a while ago, about how MicroAge can help in terms of helping an MSP scale, scalability aspect of it. And I remember one slide. Well, actually, 2 slides. I actually did a survey. I'll talk to you about this afterwards. I did a poll during the thing. But it was also one specific aspect was about the complexity of running an MSP. Okay, the complexity of your service delivery includes procurement. It includes service. I mean, stuff breaks. The break and fix aspect. You have to be able to roll a truck or be able to service your customers, and the projects in terms of profitability, and in terms of positioning yourself as your customer's trusted IT business advisor is really up there. Your ability to deploy projects, to be able to solidify that positioning in a local market. And then there's the managed services. Of course, everyone's focuses on the managed services. Hey, listen, it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's the gel with your customer to increase that stickiness. But the hardest part of it for any company, maybe sub 25 employees, or even beyond any size, is to be able to hit to move the needle on each one of these items, because anyone can bring you down. If you're not selling enough projects, well, eventually, you're not gonna have as many customers. You don't position yourself well. But however, to be able to deploy and be better at projects, you have to have the horsepower, the expertise. We're not talking about rolling a truck here, right? We're talking about project managers and everything. So what I found is that there's always this ceiling that an MSP is going to hit, where we talked about it earlier. HR is an issue. Well, you don't have the manpower. So now MSPs are in a position where they're going to be able to pick and choose the jobs they want to do, pick and choose the partners they want to deal with, and the clients that they want to onboard. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you can't just throw money at it and hire techs.
No,
it doesn't work anymore. Well, it doesn't work anymore. It might work in certain instances, but at the end of the day, it's not necessarily as scalable. It's not as scalable as you can be. You have to be able to optimize and be able to offer more services with less people, right? So I think what we're seeing a lot, and what I've noticed from a lot of MSPs, is the fact that they lack a sales engine. And a lot of them are working on referral base, which is great. It's awesome. Hey, you'll take a referral any time of day, right? But at the end of the day, it's not something you can bank on. And the fact is that whenever the phone rings, you're being reactive. Now, if you want to go out there and get more business with so many opportunities that are available now, it's all about being able to predict, scale, being able to have a replicable sales engine. And I think that piece is something maybe missing from MSPs that are going to be the ones that are going to be able to capitalize on these opportunities.
I think there's a bunch out there that have started that process. I mean, I know I saw a lot of, especially in the Canadian marketplace, just even the last 5 years, the maturity level has grown significantly. And you must have seen that.
Oh, yeah,
even
for sure.
In your own community.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. That's the thing. It's basically there's still this mindset about referrals,
Yeah,
which is great, you know. But whenever I talk to an MSP owner and he tells me I don't have any marketing budget, I don't need to do marketing, I get all incoming business.
beautiful.
They beautiful. That's awesome. Now, but that's not predictable at the end
Yeah,
of the day, and it's just it's fine, it's great. But I think that it's more it has to do. Well, you want to have that cake, you want to grab that piece of cake, that piece of market share. You have to go out and get it. And again, like I said, it's a lot of complicated moving parts
yeah,
to be able to set the right recipe to go out and get that business, right?
yeah. You got to have a lot of faucets on to make sure you're always getting water. You know.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you got to figure out, okay, wait a minute, I have to get better at this faucet, at this level,
Yeah, yeah,
increase this one and this one.
yeah.
Listen, last piece on this. What would you say? Like, actually, you know what? Let's switch into the community aspect of third period. Okay, the Datto community, right?
Uh,
Listen, for me this is a big one because of course MicroAge is a franchise organization, but it's a peer group. It's a lot of peer exchange, a lot of best practices through peer exchange and such. And what I've seen in the last couple of years, a lot of these major vendors, like Datto, have invested in the community aspect, right? The whether it be the education piece, the peer exchange piece, peer groups. I mean, basically, you guys have done a job the last couple of years to sponsor some peer groups, right?
mhm, mhm.
Tell me what's behind it. Why is it so important in your vision? Why I get a good idea, you know, but why is it so important for you guys to like build that community?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I kind of learned this real early on. I spend a lot of some time of my life working in finance and dealing with end users on lending and stuff like that. Then I did do a little bit of HR for a while. I wasn't an HR rep. I was selling HR services. So again, selling to end user companies. And then I found the channel and realized that as big as IT is,
Mm-hmm.
the channel is a fairly small, the word of mouth goes around really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that we learned very quickly, and I've done this now with a couple of different vendors, that people like to do business with people they like, right? You don't have to have necessarily the best technology, the cheapest technology, and I think MSPs would agree with that you don't need to have, or what's in your MSP stack is not important. Your price is not even that important. People are going to want to do business with you because they want to do business with you, right? And they're willing to pay a little bit more. Or they're willing to give you a little bit of forgiveness on that. It's not as black and white as that. Which means, what do you need to do? You need to build this community. You need to develop a relationship with the people that you actually engaging with. So I sold RMM for a lot of years. I'm back to selling RMM because Datto acquired an RMM company, but that's a completely different story. But sold RMM for years. We were not the best product in the market. We were not the cheapest product in the market. But one of the things that we did well was we treated our partners right. We stayed loyal to them, like we're channel only. That we answered the phone when they called. That we provided great support when they needed support. There's nothing more frustrating that when you're stuck with something and you call that 800 number for tech support and nobody is there to answer, or you have to leave a message or send an email and you're going to get a response back on their time, not your time. So, these all of a sudden little tiny things become so important that nobody would consider leaving you because you did such a good job at taking care of them. So I've developed literally friendships. I mean, Mike, you and I met how many years ago? And, I know that I can call you and you're going to give me all the help in the world. And, you can call me and I'm going to give you all the help in the world. And technically we're supposed to be in an almost like an adversarial role. There's this other thing too, like the MSP community does not trust the vendor community. And to be fair, legacy, the vendor community doesn't trust the channel either. Like when I first joined Compact, it was this ongoing battle because you guys wanted to make more margin. We wanted to protect as much margin. And it became this kind of we needed each other. We had to work together here, but we would still butt heads and then throw in distribution into there. So now all of a sudden and then these vendors start selling direct to your end users,
That
and
also,
Like it just completely
that's a relationship that can go
ruined.
sideways.
Right. And I'm still dealing. We have not sold direct at Datto. It's one of the beautiful parts about my job. We don't sell direct. We're 100% channel. And that way I can honestly tell everybody that I am exclusively focused on their success, because unless they're successful, I'm not successful. And the margin conversation is completely different because I sell it to you and end users don't see my price. They can't go to Best Buy and buy it somewhere. They can't go to Amazon and buy it. So, my goal is to give you great product at the lowest price I can so that you could go make a ton of product on that, or a ton of margin on that. That's the goal here. And that makes my life so much easier that I can build a community here. But there are still people that do not trust vendors. And that's only because they've been, cheated on and lied to so many times that why would I trust a vendor? And especially as we get bigger and bigger and bigger, there's more reasons to, or more problems that kind of come in to think about this. So community for me is absolutely essential. It's creating a throat to choke in essence. Yeah. So I know, or that if something's going sideways with Datto, that you can call Rob. And if you don't know me, there's 10 other people that will say you got to call Rob, and it happens to me every day. And I love doing it because it's basically staying on top of all these problems. If you want to know whether a technology is good or not, I know the first thing that MSPs do is talk to other MSPs. Word of mouth in this industry is massive. And if you cross one person, that will get around. And there's a few of my competitors that are dealing with that, started selling, only direct for larger deals. Well, that message goes rampant through the entire community. And that's a valid reason to not want to do business with a vendor. So, community is something that it's fragile. It's something that you need to nurture and take care of. It's something that you have to genuinely care about and be very sincere about. It's tough, but when you've got it dialed in, when you can hold events, say like DattoCon, where we're celebrating our community rather than just trying to sell you more crap. When we can do things, we've got a big MSP Tech Day that's coming up. Like it is literally talking about technology, the future of technology. It's not a sales pitch. It's for our existing customers. That's where you can go and say like, these are things that we should be doing for our community. It's, there was a lot in there. I kind of rambled, but
no, but that's perfect. Listen, it ties into it meets a need from the industry. Like you mentioned earlier, other than MSPs or VARs that were part of a community, a buying group, a purchasing group, they would actually see each other at these vendor events before, right? But now I think what the main difference now is that there is so much emphasis on the value that each will bring to their customers that the secret's out. It's not necessarily, let's say I'm an MSP, it's not necessarily about the margin I make. I will make healthy margin, very good margins, but it's about the value that I bring. And somehow that's why it ties in very well with the community aspect with vendors, such as what you're trying to do right now. The fact that, it's not even how many times you go see a customer, right? Or you or your reps go see a customer, and it's a question about price.
Yeah.
It's not that it's been vacated from the discussion. It's just that it's kind of like, I'm not going to nickel and dime my partner, Datto, on a couple of points. At the end of the day, it's up to me to be able to sell this thing because there's more to the product or the service than the dollar value, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's also, I think it also ties into the modern thinking about the MSP, about being able to be there for your customer, where, of course, if you're playing in the enterprise play, all right, in the enterprise sector, bigger, larger companies, it's a lot about the quote, and big budgets with small percentages will make a huge difference, right? But when our MSPs are talking to the president and the owner of a company, whether it be a 20-man accounting firm or anything like that, then it's more about, as long as you keep my business running, I'm happy. They don't want to get cheated. Of course, you got to be competitive.
Yeah.
And I think that it resonates well with them because that's what MSPs are selling, right?
Here's an awesome kind of thing that's happening right now. It started happening before COVID, but it's continued through COVID. Obviously, Datto has grown as an organization. I was in the top, we're one of the first employees to work at Datto 7 years ago, and now we're close to 2,000 employees. So we've grown, and we've grown as a result of the MSP channel grown. As a result of becoming a bigger vendor, I get invited to a lot of meetings with other vendors. Okay. And I'm not talking about just the MSP vendors that you guys see. I'm talking like I get to go and sit at tables with executives from organizations like IBM, HP, Cisco, Microsoft, Akamai, even organizations that don't even have a traditional MSP channel.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, like they've kind of viewed me as the guy that understands the MSP channel. So then what these guys do is they digest all this information about their go-to-market strategy, and they look at all the different channels, and they see that managed services, MSPs, are one of the, not only the strongest pre-COVID, but they're also one of the strongest post-COVID that are going to continue to thrive and grow. All their other channels are starting to drop. This is why we're seeing resellers trying to get into MSP. This is why we see, telco and print dealers trying to find MSP. Everybody's looking at the MSP channel as the future of the way IT is going to be delivered, period. Yeah. So these large organizations are constantly coming to me and asking, Rob, how do we do this? And for me, it's this constant kind of education of what an MSP wants. What does an MSP community look like? Some of these organizations will be able to do it and create an MSP program. Some of them won't. But I think that understanding the MSP is different than understanding a traditional reseller channel. Perfect example. Okay. Yeah. I want to, and most organizations, increase their prices every single year. I can't just on April 1st decide that everybody's bill is going to go up 5% for RMM or backup or whatever I'm selling them, right? Yep. I can't do that because you have a contract with your end user. You're going to have to go and negotiate a price hike with your end user. You might not be able to do it now. You have to wait for that contract
renewal. Yeah.
Right. So in essence, all I've done is I've done a price hike, put more money in my pocket. But I think most MSPs, it's coming out of yours before you have the ability to go back. So these are things that most organizations that don't deal with the channel exclusively don't understand about the channel. The whole idea of pitting one MSP up against another MSP to try to sell a better backup solution when you're selling your services. You're not just selling my backup solution. That whole like calling you guys on a daily basis to talk about what's going on from a Datto perspective. Your average MSP is working with 27 different vendors. We're not the only vendor. No. I think about Datto all day long, all day. But that doesn't mean that the MSP does. So that whole also understanding of how MSPs work is super important. And there's not a lot of organizations that get that and just kind of take for granted that you guys are all sitting around waiting for us to call to sell you something, and it's just, that's the other aspect of it too, is just even understanding how and what makes MSPs tick, featuring that and pushing on those things. What does the community need? Where does the community need support? And that's where you can push those things and win.
Well, I think that's a big part where the education piece comes in. One thing, my experience at DattoCon last year, and by the way, I have to thank, I'm always going to be very fond of Datto, whatever happens in the rest of my career or who I work with, for the fact of putting on that show for me, because I was in San Diego, and I am a huge naval and aviation buff. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Everything about an aircraft carrier and stuff like that. And to actually have a closing party on the deck of a freaking aircraft carrier, all right, was just awesome. All right. Yeah. So it was a great event. It was a great show. Right.
It was fun. You could have seen what I had planned for Atlanta. It was going to be epic, but
next year.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure something else out.
Yeah. But basically the thing is, the impact, but the thing is, the education piece of that event was about sales, was about product service delivery, was about planning for the future, was about cash flow, managing your cash flow. There were so many different angles of education you could speak to that have nothing to do with your product or your company. Yeah. Right. So it's the pull instead of the push method. And of course, it works very well in the community aspect. And I think that's why I think we're seeing that from a few communities. I don't want to name anybody, but there's a few companies that are basically doing this because they realize that, hey, you know what? That's a better investment of our time to be able to help out our guys make more money, and they'll keep coming because of that.
Well, and I think that if by even leveraging that community, I think it's one of the strengths that I actually have is, I'm an idiot. I don't know a lot of things, but I do know other people, right?
Yeah.
So that if you have a question about, hey, I'm trying to do this, I actually probably can name 3 or 4 people that have done that. And that's why, like, you look at DattoCon, a lot of that content is being presented by other MSPs, because whatever is keeping you up at night, somebody else has a solution to that problem. And whatever's keeping that person up, you might have a solution to. What I find is that by bringing our communities together, and a lot of the groups that you're talking about and communities that you're talking about, like peer groups, like this is where that win happens. And we also know that if you are engaged with other MSPs, you're going to grow faster than if you're trying to do this alone. Whether it's organized in a formal setting through peer groups, or whether you're doing this on your own, whether you're part of a community like MicroAge or you do it on your own, like we know that if you are surrounding yourselves with other people that are fighting the same fight, you're going to win. You're going to be better all around for it. And that's where I think leveraging that as well is massive.
There's the huge benefits. I mean, peer groups. I could go on and on and on about peer groups, and of course, MicroAge is a bit different than just traditional peer groups. But at the base, at the core of it, it is what it is. It is a tightly knit community, because we're talking about at this point we got 37 locations, 30 ownership groups, right? So there's this commonality, right? But I think it would, even though we encourage all the exchanges, for us, it's an open book. It's basically anything that anybody from St. John's, Newfoundland can bring to the table that's going to help out our partner in Mississauga. It's all good, and they all realize that piece. But for all that's good, I mean, I would tell them, hey, don't limit yourself to MicroAge. Go out and explore communities like Varnex, like TrustX Alliance, like DattoCon, like wherever you can get that information. It's all going to be good to run your business. Absolutely. And in turn, you're going to bring it back to us.
Absolutely.
You'll bring it back to our network, and basically however good my guys are, if they can get better, it just makes everybody else better. Right. That's that sentiment of the community aspect is key, right? It's and that's the thing. It's so complicated. Like, there's so many different aspects to running a business, but running an MSP, which is a service-based business in IT, is that's hard enough. But getting it to scale and grow and be profitable, now that's like a never-ending quest. Right?
Yeah.
So all the information you can get from events like that, and that's why you guys, like I said, you guys did a great job from what I've seen, and I think it comes out of Datto, the teaching aspect, the availability, right?
And
availability.
It's hard to maintain as you grow, but I take it quite seriously and quite personally. So,
Cool. Hey, one last thing on this subject before we get to plug the technology day. Listen, one thing about the impact you talked about it earlier about Autotask purchase, right? Now, given versus a ConnectWise community, which ConnectWise was at DattoCon, I was there last year and everything. Have you felt like it? Is it was it something that? How do you live? Tell me more about that aspect, about the Autotask versus ConnectWise relationship.
Yeah. So you're talking about open ecosystem, right? And it's funny because if you look at the legacy for anybody that's been kind of in the MSP space for a while, and I'll use Autotask and ConnectWise as an example. There was there's others, but the barbs would go back and forth. The arguments would go back and forth. The infighting would go back, but they would do it in very public ways where it was like mom and dad are fighting and the children are watching kind of thing. And it was like absolutely ridiculous. So what happens is, and I'll give Austin McCord, which is the founder of Datto, credit for this. And remember, Austin's a fairly young man, doesn't have a ton of channel experience, is a brilliant tech. And this is back in 2017. So he would have been close to 30 years old. And what happens is Autotask gets folded into Datto. Okay. Now, ConnectWise is a massive partner of Datto's, along with all the other companies that Autotask competes with, and vice versa. Autotask was working very well with a lot of companies that Datto competed with on the backup side. So now all of a sudden, we've created a whole bunch of competitors for ourselves. And we had to make a decision. We had to make a decision as to, are we going to go to war with these organizations, make our technology integrate better, make our price better, start bundling and better offers. If you buy this, we'll give you this for free, that kind of stuff. Or do we maintain an open ecosystem and let the channel choose? And
Okay.
Austin made an extremely mature decision in my mind that said, look, let the MSPs choose. If they like the color blue over here and the color green over there and the color red over here, then let them choose that. If they want blue everything, then beautiful, we'll do that too. But what this does is it forces all the vendors to compete for your business, but do it in a way through innovation, through community, through price, through all those things, and earn your business, not force the business by making you decide that you have to change PSAs or you have to change RMMs because of an integration or a severed integration.
May the best product,
may the best product and the best organization win. In the meantime, we're gonna make sure that everything works together so that the MSPs have choice and will ultimately have the best. And if it's funny because if you look at the larger, like if you divide the channel into the small vendors that deal with the MSP space, and then the large vendors that just deal with the channel overall, you know, Oracle, Microsoft, IBM, Google, they all compete in different, Google's a bad example, but they all compete in different ways, but they're all at each other's events. They all integrate with each other, and there is no barbs going back and forth or shots being shot over each other's bows up at that space. So it took a maturity of MSP vendors. And I think it's a reflection upon the growth of the MSP space, the value of managed service providers, the power of the MSP voice, cumulative voice. It took that in order for us vendors to say, you got to do what's right for our industry, for our community, and rather than continue the kind of immaturity. And I'll be honest, I think we have all done a phenomenal job at that. There's been very, very few instances where, you know, we've had to call BS on somebody. And I have a great relationship with the guys that do my job at all of my competing shops. We talk on a regular basis just to make sure that, you know, we're trying to beat each other up, but we're all doing it the right way rather than an immature way. And I'm very proud of that. Very proud of that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, listen, like you said, there's this maturity around, but I think there's also the fact that there is so many opportunities. There's so many opportunities in this space that are never ending. I think sometimes I talk to MicroAge owners, MSP owners all together. I think there's so much opportunity that they don't have like I said earlier, it's like they don't necessarily have the horsepower. So then becomes a certain position where you can actually talk to your competitor, which you never actually go up against, even though you're in the same market sometimes, right? Well, talking about mid to larger markets, that it brings in that sort of collaboration. I wouldn't, not necessarily collaboration, but in the vendor space, it's taken on, it's the same type of attitude. I think there's so much business that's growing so fast that, you know, it just makes sense. It just makes sense to say, no, you know what? Let's just make sure that we have competent people, that we have a good marketing approach, that we're there for our customers, and that we try to do the best for them as we can.
That's how you win business. You won't win business by forcing something down somebody's throat or offering them a better price.
Yeah, I tried. Doesn't work very well, you know. Hey, listen, last thing. Actually, there's two things. I'll leave this one there. The banner. Okay, we got to start. There's an event in a couple of days, right? MSP Technology Day that you guys are doing. Right? You want to talk about this? Listen, the link. I tried copying the link. It was, I think it was like 300 characters long.
Yeah. That's
okay. Fair. So I actually, but even then, you're probably not gonna be able to click on this thing, anyways. That's the LinkedIn abbreviation. But anyways, go on the website.
It's easy. If you go to datto.com/events, June 25th, and there's a couple of different options on June 25th to meet up all different time zones. We are doing a live event to talk about basically MSP Technology Day. We are talking about specifically, this one is focused around RMM technology, but not exclusive to RMM technology. And it's awesome. I've got the CEO of Datto kicking it off. I've got the CTO coming in and talking about where he's envisioning MSP technology now and in the future. I've got a brand new CPO, Chief Product Officer, who we have recruited from, I can't give too much away. You're going to meet him on Thursday, but we've recruited him from some very large and great vendors that we've been able to recruit from to bring them and that knowledge and power and experience to the MSP space. We have the visionary of Datto RMM. It's basically he started cloud-based RMM way back in would have been the early 2000s, and now he's developing the kind of the thought leadership, like how are things like machine learning and AI and all this going to fit into IoT? How's that all going to fit into RMM technology as time goes on? So we have some really big thought leadership pieces. We have some sales and marketing pieces as well, because I know it's tough to position this stuff and mitigate the cost of these things. So we're going to help with that. We have partners that we're going to be bringing on that are going to be talking about how they're utilizing technology, how they're making money through COVID, including I've got 2 panels going of partners. Both include a Canadian MSP. So we do have some Canadian content in there as well. But beautiful event that we pulled together on the 25th. It's going to basically scratch everybody's itch when it comes. And we'll basically talk about the future of RMM, not just our RMM, but future of RMM as a whole. I'm excited about it.
Cool. All right. So it's a date, and everybody can chime in. You know what? You'd be able to find on LinkedIn, on Datto, anywhere. You'll be able to find the link.
Events.
Yeah, there you go. Be able to find it.
So much easier than okt.to.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I actually looked at. I wanted to put the true link, the URL, but man, that's like freaking wow. So many pages to go.
Events. It works, man.
Okay. Hey, listen. Leave off with something. Okay, it's basically you mentioned last Friday you were coming up on your 7th anniversary with Datto. I don't know what the date is, but hey. I looked at I looked at what we have here. My daughter's 8, so I figured, hey, maybe nice. we got something left over from the cake, right?
Nice.
So happy 7th anniversary.
Nice, thank you. Where's the cake though? My wife's had me on a COVID diet. I'm looking for cake, but
I ate it, man. I ate it. I didn't get there. Sorry about that. Anyway,
thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, guys. So listen, folks, it's been great. It's been almost an hour. And you know what? When I first started this thing, I wanted to, even with Shane a couple of weeks ago, Shane Gibson, shout out. He chimed in earlier and in sales. And I told him, listen, let's keep it at like 15 minutes, a 20-minute chat. Just want to test the waters and everything. We wound up staying there for like 45 minutes. So I guess I should learn that whenever I give me a mic and give me a conversation, I can hold you guys up for such a long time. So I appreciate everybody.
You can blame me too for rambling. So yeah,
that's all right. But hey, thanks for being on board. We didn't get to talk about it, but I remember. Hold on a second before we leave. You did tell me a story real quick. All right, I remember a story that you were stuck in Germany when COVID hit, right? Trying to get back to the U.S., but because you had gone to China,
Rome.
You've gone to Rome?
I was in Rome just prior to that, but yes, I had been in China, just like not China, but Taiwan. Just prior to that in December. But yeah, it got weird because of course I'm a green card holder. I'm not an American. I'm an American resident, not an American citizen.
Okay.
And immediately the Americans made the decision. This is back in I want to say it's in early March. The Americans had made the decision that anybody who had visited China was not within the last 90 days was not going to be allowed back in the States unless you're an American citizen.
There you go.
But I'm a resident.
Yeah.
So this is where I started doing the math real quick. Fortunately, it was like 92 days ago.
Are you serious?
So it was like I wasn't within that 90-day period. So I was like, man, it's hard enough immigrating in this country, much less now all of a sudden they're not going to let you in for that. But
yeah. All right. Okay. Anyways, listen, those are tales for another day. Those are the tales of the travel that Rob has to go through.
Hopefully in person in one.
Yeah. You know what? Actually, that's enough time. I've taken enough time of everyone. Rob, thanks for being on board, man. We'll definitely pick this up again. Hopefully, we'll get to see each other at DattoCon 2021. Right?
Or sooner.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
DattoCon Montreal, but maybe.
Oh no! Listen, if you can do an event in Montreal, you know it's great. But getting all those Americans to actually have a passport to come to Montreal, that's another story. But do come to see us in Montreal.
Absolutely.
But if you ever get to do a DattoCon in Montreal, DattoCon North, let's do that. Let's try that.
Sounds wonderful.
I'll hashtag it DattoCon North.
That sounds
great.
Right. That sounds wonderful.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Rob. Take care of yourself, man.
Bye.
Bye-bye.